Hey, BassGeek here. It is late fall. What is it going to take for you to catch fish? I've got a few things. That's right, geeks. Listen, it is November. The leaves are falling off the trees. It was cold this morning when me and Mike got out on the water, and things are going to start changing. We are really in the fall to winter transition at this point as we go into December. At least where I'm at, that's what's happening. It's really weird because on some of the lakes, we've already seen the bass kind of go to the banks, the shad go down deep, and the feeding frenzy is over. But you can go just a little bit south. We're on a couple of Virginia lakes right now. You go a little bit south into Tennessee, and I've caught fish, and I think the difference is largemouth lakes versus smallmouth lakes. You get a little bit more of a fall bite because I'm chasing smallmouth down there. No matter what's going on, I have got some baits that's going to help you catch more bass this November. So almost the end of fall, what happens is the bass, especially if you're fishing a largemouth lake, the bass have fed up on the shad and they go to the bank. It's almost time for the turnover, and I think they really quit targeting shad as much. Now, they may do it at certain times of the day, but we've been out scoping a lot in this time of year, and so far we haven't found those bass feeding. Now, what happens is, as it gets colder, the shad begin to gang up out over deep water, and those bass will come back off the bank. What also happens this time of year is you get a turnover, and that means like the clear lakes that I like to fish, they actually dirty up, again forcing the bass to the banks. And I like a couple of different baits this time of year when that turnover starts, and right before the turnover when the bass do really go to the banks. And one of those baits is this little bait right here. Now, you may not want to use quite a heavy bait, but this is the Strike King, but this is a deep spinner bait. And you'll notice I've got the gold on here. You'll also notice I've got a bluegill pattern. When they go into the wood, as the temperature drops to get that last little bit of heat, they are going to be around a lot of bluegill and a lot less shad, and that is what's going to get bit. So number 5 is a spinner bait. Something that you'll notice I do is I put a little bit of chartreuse on the tail, and this is a great shad imitator, matches the bait real well. This is the Exxon Swammer. I think this is the 3.5, but links will be in the description so you can go check out all these baits. One thing about November, something that you're really going to notice is the color, because I just really feel in my area they really start targeting brim when they get congregated into those laydowns and those brush piles. This is from Dirty Jigs. This is I believe the California swim jig. Again, adjust the size based on where you are. This is a heavier jig. I want to say this is a 3/4 ounce. It might even be an ounce, but I fish some pretty deep banks, and I've got to get this down into that brush or down in the very tips of that brush, which sometimes can be 30 and 40 feet deep. So this little jig is a great bluegill imitator. Now, you can put a paddle tail on, but I wanted to show you another little trick. This is actually a rage bug, which is an incredible little bluegill imitating bait all on its own, especially if you keep those legs together. Now, again, you can put a swim bait on here, but number 4 has to be a swim jig. Now, you know I'm not going to completely forget about my shad feeders. They're going to sink to the bottom. They're going to get a little bit deeper. And one of my favorite things to throw on those deeper points, on those deeper banks, humps, that sort of thing, ledges during late November, has got to be at number 3, a blade bait like the Demiki Vault. Now, something I love to still create an erratic action, whether I'm working it over brush piles, down a bank, or even if I'm on a lake where they're still feeding on shad. it's something like this, the X-Zone Whiplash Shad. Now this is a great imitation again of a bluegill. These things have some pretty crazy action. This is one of my favorite colors right here. This is Smoke Pearl Laminate. Now I know you geeks know that I use the Armor Shad, the 3-inch, a whole lot on the ball head jig, but if you're really going to fish up shallow, the new 7-inch and the 5-inch are really good soft jerk baits. By the way, by Demiki. Last but not least, one of my very favorite, especially on a lake like this that's very steep, very deep, and you're going to fish a lot for those deeper bass in the ends of those laydowns. This is the Strike King Caffeine Shad, and that's in Ghost Shad. Now, still at number 2, we're going to throw these in there with the soft jerks, and that's the hard jerk baits. They really start to play for me in mid-November. This is the new Flashpoint by Booyah. Big fan of this. Their new entry into the jerkbait world. Really love that. It gives the bass an incredible target. And especially in fall, I love a smaller jerkbait early in November. And that's why I love the Megabass 110 Junior plus 1. And that is in my favorite Clearwater color, Matte Shad. So what's the number 1? It's gotta be a finesse swim bait, and I will rig them a lot of different ways. These are 2 of my favorites right here. This is the Demiki Armor Shad Paddle Tail. This is the Jarhead little spinner. I love these things, great little bait, especially when everybody's throwing an underspin. And of course, the Kitech Swing Impact Fat. And again, you can see I've got it rigged on another Jarhead. Speaking of underspins, it is a great time to throw a bigger underspin this time of year too in November. This is a Ramsey Baits swim baits, one of my favorite 5-inch swim baits, soft plastic swim baits, but that is the Dirty Jigs underspin that I like to pair it with. So there is a lot of things that's going to happen as we transition from fall to winter. And that's kind of what November and the 1st of December is. So some things are going to happen. Fish are going to get a little finicky, at least in my lakes. A lot's going to happen in November as it's really the transition period from fall to winter. The bass are going to be all over the place. They're going to be on fire one day and cold as ice the next. Just stay out there. It's the time of year where a lot of times you just have to cover a lot of water and pay attention to what's going on in your surroundings. Geeks, you need to go check this video out. It is talking about how to use a shaky head this time of year when the bass go to wood, get around those standing docks, and get that last little bit of heat of the year. Make sure you go check this video out. Otherwise, questions and comments in the comments section below. Like it if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe and make sure you ring that bell. Join the 100% Watch Squad. And as always, you geeks rock.